Welcome to today's installment of Audit Austin Code Compliance. We're all familiar with the concept of a rubber stamp. And I've chose this stamp here and the term inspected because we're going to look at how an Austin Code Compliance inspector inspected an Austin Independent School District property, and we're going to question whether he just rubber stamped his investigation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this young man here. I believe this is Mr. Martinez, the guy we're looking for. Again, I don't know this young man, but he does work for code. I found this online. Looking at the City of Austin employees, we see that there is a Javier Martinez, Alberto, I believe is how you pronounce his middle name, Hispanic male who came to work for the city June the 18th of 2001. Current salary is $54,558.40. That's the base salary. If we look at the code compliance register, we see we do have a Javier Martinez. The only other Martinez we have is a Hilda, and she works for the executive, and that's a female. So I'm pretty safe in assuming that the picture I showed you is Mr. Martinez. He is a current registered code enforcement officer with the State of Texas Department of Health. His effective rank is 1016 of 2014. And he had to have achieved that within 1 year of employment from the code department. So we can safely guess that he's been working for code no sooner than 2013 as an inspector, even though he was hired in 2001. It's not uncommon for code inspectors to come from other departments, whether retired police officers or other things, and they go, hey, that looks like a good job, and the city is a great place to work. So let's take a look at Mr. Martinez's work. Okay, this is a code compliance log. This is how they document the work done. The number on top here, CC 2015-070577, is the record number. We see the status of the case is closed. The address is 6800 Bill Hughes Road, 78745. It's got a legal description of ABS 6 SUR 19, Canon William, 28.1 acres. The first thing you note is the property owner is not recorded. This is not an uncommon ploy for code investigators to not list this here. I believe this is a searchable field. That's how you find repeat offenders. You could go into the database and see how many times John Smith has had code violations, and you can pull them up. By omitting the property owner here, that makes that very difficult to do. Double checking, we checked with the Travis County Appraisal District. Any property inside of Travis County is recorded there, even if you don't pay property taxes. And so looking at his case log, this was the legal description he gave right here, the 28.1 acre tract of land. He had to have gotten that from somewhere, and that was from the Travis County Appraisal District. But here, down where it says owner, it lists Austin Public Schools and the address. Why would an Austin code inspector not provide that information? It's not the first time I have run across this where a code inspector omits that information. So if you were to do a search for all code violations at Austin Public Schools, it wouldn't show up. Pretty sneaky, huh? The complaint date was June the 11th. I was the complainant, although I did this anonymously. And it's a very lengthy complaint. It deals with Betachek Middle School. And I'll show you in a minute, this school's got a lot of problems in the fact that they have work done and they don't always get permits for it. And so what I was really concerned about was that they were doing electrical work over at the school, and they didn't have any permits for it. And that's all covered in this set right up in here. On the Thelma Avenue side of the school across from 501 Thelma, a contractor has set a job site trailer and is placing a new electrical service to the school. A check of permits shows that work similar to this was done in the past, but that permit was finalized and is closed. And then I say it looks like their old tricks again. And so Mr. Martinez is assigned on the 14th. Mr. Martinez recorded his case log on the 17th, talking about what he did the previous day on June 16th. He states, on June 16th, Inspector Martinez conducted an initial inspection of 6800 Bill Hughes Road. He's speaking of himself in the third person, and checked for the required permits. The contractor has Al approved. The contractor has, should read, all approved and active permits for this building, plumbing, electrical, and mechanical for the work taking place at the school. There are 2 pending permits, building and electrical, to remodel and relocate 1 portable building. I checked Amanda and found all permits had been approved since April 16, 2015, and all are active to date. No violations found at time of inspection, and he closes his case. So, again, this is a 28-acre campus that I turned in. Mr. Martinez shows up, and he refers to the contractor, but he doesn't say who he talked to. He assures us that the contractor, whoever that may be, whoever he talked to, has all of the approved and active permits for the building, plumbing, and electrical and mechanical work for the building taking place at the school. This is a huge school. This was going on over summer break. There was work going on in almost every building and on top of every building. So how long did it take Mr. Martinez to figure this out? This is the AVL track record for his vehicle, obtained through open records. All the code inspectors have GPS recorders on their vehicles. So when they drive to a location, when they stop, the time starts, and then when they drive away, the time ends. This lets us know how long, the duration in minutes, that they spent at an address. Okay? And so I did an open records request for this information, and this is the information that was afforded me. And on 6/16, which is the proper date, at 2:36.29 p.m., he arrived, and he left at 2:41:02. He was there from 2:36 to 2:41. He was there for a total of 5 minutes at 528 Thelma Drive. How can you possibly inspect a 28-acre campus, talk to a contractor, review the work going on, and review the permits in 5 minutes? The short answer is, you can't. What happened here? This job was just rubber stamped. You cannot, inside of 5 minutes, do that work. He blew by, parked his car, looked around a few minutes. I don't think he talked to anybody, and we'll look at his training material and see what he was supposed to have done.
Yeah, our inspectors are some of the best trained, actually, as far as code enforcement officers in the state.
Let's take a look at how report writing is supposed to happen and the things that he should have included in his report. Okay, a lot of times when I'm doing this audit, I have to make myself very familiar, and I've been doing this since 2009, with all of the code department's policies and all of their training material. This is the training material that talks about Introduction to Report Writing, Part 1. And so let's look at this. So here in their reports, they're trained to know what the definition of a government document is. Government document defined is anything belonging to, received by, or kept by a government for information, including a court record. They are told that tampering with a government record is a Class A misdemeanor offense. The person commits this offense if he knowingly makes a false entry in or false alteration of a government record. Examples of false statements: claiming actions of others and claiming actions never taken. Now again, he went to the site, but he didn't take any photos, but he did state that everything was fine. They're also told that the city has a code of conduct and has many rules and policies designed to protect both the organization and its employees. These rules and policies are in the form of administrative bulletins, personnel policies, and the city's code of ethics. City employees are expected to work in compliance with these rules and policies. I'm a retired city employee. Every department has this type of training. But very seldom is that type of training held to the standard. You're told the consequences if you do not comply with policies. Possible days off, termination, criminal charges could be filed, or you can get a low performance on your annual reviews. Okay? So all that's fine and dandy, but the problem is if nobody's enforcing the rules, if nobody's overseeing this, then people develop sloppy habits. Here we see the importance of sentences in written communication. Your written communication will be one of the factors used to evaluate your competency as a code enforcement investigator. Your written communication may be seen by a diverse audience, another agency, courts, the public, and yes, right now on YouTube. It may serve as a source of a document for judicial and administrative proceedings. The case logs very much are designed, should be structured so if they have to take somebody to court, it shows a fair and honest assessment of what happened. So here we get to it. We read the body of his report, and it was written in the third person. It was very lacking. And not everyone writes reports in the same way, or nor they should be asked to do so. You don't want them to be robots. But this is an example of a good report. Is when I arrived at 715 East 8th Street, I met with the owner, Sally Band-Aid, and advised her that I was there to investigate a complaint of a large trash pile on the front porch. This is a great introduction. You're telling somebody what you did. He didn't do that. When he went to the property, let's take a look at what he did. He says on Tuesday, June 16th, Inspector Martinez conducted an initial inspection of 6800 Bill Hughes Road and checked for the required permits. The contractor has approved permits. Okay, so he talked about the day, who shows up, the property that he was inspecting, but he never said he went to the Thelma side where the report was. He never talks about a contractor, never mentions anybody by name. He just says, basically, he could have done this from his office if it wasn't for the fact that he was there for 5 minutes, according to his case log. So we go back to the PowerPoint, and we can see that you have to be specific. You talk to somebody and somebody said something, instead of, had he talked to the contractor could have given him a card, and it would have given more credibility to his report. But the fact is, I don't believe he talked to anybody. In the narrative, tell what you did, paint a picture to your readers, take measurements. He didn't do any of that. There's nothing to show what the scene looked like the day that he was there. This is from Google Earth, and this is a picture of the school dated on March the 9th of 2011. And I was able to capture this photo to show what the area looked like before the work was done. Then I can show where the job site trailer was placed in the parking lot. The power pole is down here. The power pole is here. They trenched and ran a new line this way. The transformer was here, the new transformer is here, and there's new distribution panels on the back side of this building. There are no permits for this work even today. So I turned this in to Austin Code, referenced this address right here, so there would be no question on what was happening. And this is what it looked like just a few days before Mr. Martinez shows up. I took these photos on 6/13 and he was there 3 days later. This fencing was around it. You can see where the new electrical lines are going up the poles right here. This is the new vault in the ground where the power was come to here and then it came across. Taken from the other side, the black line represents the trench that was open where the electrical lines were brought in. This is the stub up for the new transformer. And again, all this was in place when Mr. Martinez came to the site and he said everything was fine. You can see the old transformer right here. Here you can see the cabinets for the electrical work that are going to be mounted right here. The trench was open. You can see the gas and the water lines through here. Now, when all the work is said and done, it's all closed up. Here's your new transformer. The transformer used to be over here, but now they've got some mechanical system coming out of here, a blower type thing, that is either taking fresh air and inducting it into the building or exhausting air from the building. I don't know what that is, but there's no permits for it. So again, all this was in place, and the inspector spent 5 minutes on site, didn't take a single photo. Let's take a look at how he should have documented his case. This is slide number 82, the standards for case documentation. If it was going to be tall grass, then he would be taking pictures of tall grass. Investigator actions taken at the site include communication with individuals associated with the case. That would have been the contractor. Taking photos and identification of field issue notes posted on the property. Taking photos. No photos were taken. He didn't mention any photos. When I asked for the photos, they said there wasn't any. This was a case of rubber stamping a job and walking away from it. Mr. Martinez would have us believe that everything was fine on that day, but I live just a few blocks from that place. I go past it several times a week. I know for a fact, even looking after the permits today, and here it is in December, that there's a work that's been done at that building, and it's never been permitted. Mr. Martinez basically said that he inspected that property, but in fact, his whole case log should be rejected. The quality of work that he did was poor. Mr. Martinez, it's very clear he needs better training. Because what he did was just rubber stamp this case, close it, and allowed vendors to work at a public school without the proper permits and without the proper inspections. Do we really need a code inspector who is improperly trained and is just rubber stamping things at the Austin Public School District? Don't let code be a rubber stamp machine, a rubber stamp machine, a rubber stamp machine. Don't let code be a rubber stamp machine, a rubber stamp machine, a rubber stamp machine. We all know code's a rubber stamp machine, a rubber stamp machine, a rubber stamp machine. Boom, boom, boom.